A big cool down is on the way. I'm tracking a cold front that will bring a chance for rain and the return of crisp fall weather.
A long-term fix. Durham public school leaders are discussing classified staff salaries tonight after weeks of protests last year over that money. We'll show you what's on the table.
One of the biggest cash crops in the state of North Carolina is now at the center of Trump's trade war. Coming up, we talk to local soybean farmers about how this is impacting them.
Let's start with this, though. The rain is back in the forecast. We're expecting some showers, maybe even some storms tomorrow. Thanks for joining us here at 7 o'clock. I'm Dan Haggerty.
And I'm Ashley Rowe. And that's not all that we're keeping our eye on. After the rain, we're in for a big cool down. Lows in the 40s for Thursday night. Let's get over to Kat. Kat, we have all week we've been calling this our most significant fall cold front so far this year.
Yes, it is. We haven't had any lows in the 40s around the triangle this fall season, and highs will only be in the 60s on Thursday. Here comes the front. What's not as significant about this front is the rain that it's going to bring. We do have rain and some scattered storms in the forecast with it. However, it's not going to be the soaking rain that your grass and your yard probably needs. A couple of sprinkles out there tonight. The better chance for rain starts late tomorrow morning. For the morning commute, a 20% chance for rain. That'll go up as we get toward the later morning hours and lunchtime. Still scattered, a few rumbles of thunder, but no severe weather expected. And then during the afternoon, it would mainly be in our southern and eastern cities where we could see some of those showers and storms. For the evening commute, there will be a small chance of an isolated storm. Here's the thing. This run of Futurecast is just overdone with the second round of rain and storms. There will still probably be some action on the radar, but just not that much. As for the sweater weather, it's coming back. 48 in Raleigh Friday morning. That's Thursday night into Friday morning. 50 in Fayetteville, all the way down to 43 in Roxborough.
We are really going to feel it, Kat. Hey, let's roll through some of today's big headlines. Here are 5 things you should know right now. An Edgecombe County teaching assistant is accused of grabbing a child by the neck and hitting him. Family members tell us the child is 5 years old and has autism. Investigators say this happened at G.W. Bullock Elementary School. The employee, Regina Gray, now faces 2 charges, assault and child abuse. She no longer works at the school. Another school bus crash in Johnston County, this one on Pittman Road around 3 this afternoon. Troopers tell us a pickup truck rear-ended the bus. The driver of the truck drove off. The Highway Patrol is investigating. It's Election Day in part of our area, and the polls close in just about 25 minutes. Durham and Fayetteville each have mayoral races, while Rocky Mount has a handful of city council seats up for grabs. Once polls close, you can find live results of those races on WRAL.com or the WRAL News app.
A quick 2-for-1 in downtown Raleigh. City Council is looking into a rezoning plan to build a new 30-story building at the corner of Peace and West Streets. It would have 800 apartments. This plan was voted down, you may remember, 2 years ago, but now it's back in front of the city tonight. Meanwhile, the council did make a decision on expanding a downtown social district. So starting now November 14th, you can sip and stroll between participating buildings at the Seaboard Station area. Also, utility bills are going up in Fayetteville between 2026 and 2030. Bills for water, sewer, and electricity will rise between 2 and 6%. The city says this will help to raise money to replace some old pipes, improve the grid, and expand water and sewer access to new areas. It is an unstructured mess. There's no culture, no organization. It is a complete disaster. That is your quote of the day, coming from a source with firsthand knowledge of UNC's football program. It has not been a strong start, we should say, to Belichick's era at UNC. Is that putting it nicely? The team is 2-3. The stadium was nearly empty during Saturday's blowout loss against Clemson. And now we've seen these reports of this divide in the locker room, a scrapped documentary, which was big news, hard to believe, and a warning sent to all UNC athletes, not just football players. So here to help make sense of all of this, we have WRL Sports' Pat Welter. Pat, we'll get to that quote that we just talked about in a moment, but let's start with that warning now that the athletic department has sent to athletes, to the students there today. They warn these athletes not to sell their tickets, which would be an NCAA violation. Why is that so significant here?
Well, it's funny. You phrase it as a warning. I believe the wording in the actual message that we obtained earlier today was a friendly reminder. And it's interesting because this was just one of the many pieces in the puzzle of our report about the divide in UNC's locker room under Bill Belichick. And this was a specific example of players instead of giving their tickets away or sharing them with other teammates or families that might need them for particular games when they have family members coming in, friends coming in that want to see them play at home or on the road, they were selling them. And what my reporting focused on was just kind of the lack of unity that showed with the team and the locker room. Very individualistic mindset is a quote I've gotten from sources about the culture at UNC right now. But then you almost overlook the fact that, this is also a violation. And in that reminder sent to student athletes, it says that, yes, this could affect your eligibility. So a much more serious thing than even beyond just the fact that UNC has a football culture problem right now.
Yeah, student athletes can make money, but how they make that money, there are still some specific rules to that, and students need to be very, very careful. Let's talk, Pat, about this Hulu documentary. So this is something I know a lot of people from this area were excited to see. They wanted to see this Hulu behind-the-scenes look of what was going on with Belichick and the team and everything, but now WRAL, still again working to confirm this, but Inside Carolina reporting that planned documentary on UNC's football program is no more. It has been scrapped. What do we know about that?
Yeah, and we all but reported this ourselves on Saturday when we found out that there was no Hulu camera crew at the Clemson game. And that's what set us off, and we've been trying to confirm this as well. So obviously credit to Inside Carolina for getting it across the finish line. But when the Hulu crew, who has been at regular press conferences, they've been at practices, they've been at games, they're not at the Clemson game, which is one of the biggest on the Carolina schedule. That was clearly a red flag for that whole documentary. And if it is indeed canceled, that makes a lot of sense, right? Because why would UNC and Bill Belichick want to air the behind-the-scenes look of what's happening right now? All you have to do is read our report to find out what's going on inside that locker room, and then your two eyes can tell you what you've seen on the field. Going back to that quote, a complete disaster. So that's certainly not the kind of look that UNC or Bill Belichick wants to air for the entire world.
And you would think that if it turns out to be true, it would be UNC kicking them out, Hulu, because why would Hulu want to stop telling a story as complicated and at times as juicy as this has been? So, Pat, you're reporting on this divide in the locker room. Also has gained some serious traction in the sports world. I know you don't want to brag, but Dan Patrick name dropped you on his show earlier today. I want to take a second and quickly play that clip.
Yeah, the reason why we're talking a little bit more about Belichick, because there is an article, WRAL sports anchor and reporter Pat Welter. Multiple sources with knowledge of the inner workings of Bill Belichick's program say North Carolina's football loss is a product of a divided locker room, a disorganized coaching staff, and a failure to communicate. It feels like they thought this was going to be easier than what it is.
You know, one thing that's not easy is reporting the way that you do and getting this type of access. Can you tell us a little bit about what led to you writing that report, getting that story that was quoted by Dan Patrick?
Yeah, and that was certainly a trip to see someone of that magnitude talk about our story. And in some ways, I've been covering Bill Belichick for years. Like, I'm from the New England area. I watched the Patriots growing up, was not a Patriot fan necessarily, but I've seen his evolution there, covered him as a student at Emerson College in Boston. Remember, got to ask him a question at the Super Bowl when they were playing the New York Giants. So I've been following his career for a long time. And from the day one, when he was hired here, we have been on top of this story. We had sources inside the process of his hiring. And, for me, I report on all of Carolina. So I've built a lot of relationships over the years, and some of them have come through where you have those relationships, people tell you things. And with Bill Belichick, in the spring, I started hearing the remnants or the pieces of this story. And you need more than one source, but I had one source that gave me a whole notebook full of the problems that this person felt was happening inside the UNC program. But I reached out to some other sources to try to get another perspective, and some other sides of the story said that, no, things are going good with Bill Belichick right now, but clearly what we've seen as the season has started is that my sources in the spring were dead on, and we're seeing it play out right in front of our eyes.
Okay, Pat, keep up the good work. Thanks for the live report tonight.
Wow, well, a lot to unpack there. Hey, right now, the Durham Board of Education is meeting to talk about a long-term plan to pay hundreds of workers. You're looking at a live look at the session right now. They're looking at a PowerPoint presentation. This specifically looks at classified employees, people like occupational therapists, nutritional staff, and HR employees. Their salaries were a major point of contention last year. You remember many workers protested. WRAL's Monica Casey explains what the district is considering now for their future.
Early last year, this sidewalk was filled with protests and rallies about this issue. Tonight, the Board of Education building is much quieter as DPS leaders discuss what's next. Tonight, Durham Public School leaders are discussing how to calculate the minimum livable wage for classified staff employees. That's the group impacted by a past salary study that led to protests like this. After some employees got raises and lost them. The district implemented multiple short-term solutions, including an 11% raise and an increase in supplemental pay. Now they're discussing long-term options.
Right, it's very much our intent with this whole internal process for them to come along with us every step of the way rather than just having the final product put in front of them.
CFO Jeremy Teeter explains the district is weighing 3 options for the minimum wage, using Durham County's number, the city's number, or an option from a study done by MIT. The county option is the cheapest at about $19.22 an hour, and the MIT living wage for Durham is the most expensive at $25.55 an hour. Teeter says these options will have particular benefit for the lowest earners at DPS and could help with recruitment.
Particularly for new employees who are looking to come to Durham Public Schools, it's a much more favorable salary schedule.
In Durham, Monica Casey, WRAL News.
Thank you, Monica. Every year, China buys hundreds of millions of soybeans from North Carolina. But over the past few months, they haven't bought a single one.
The reason why? Tariffs. Harvest season starts soon. So what could happen next could make or break a multi-billion-dollar industry in our state.
And stick around for tonight's one last thing. A local pizza shop feeds hundreds of RDU employees who are working without pay during the government shutdown. We're back in 2 minutes.
So one of the major products at the center of the U.S.-China trade war is soybeans. Yeah, they're small, but they are used for a whole lot of stuff. Soybeans are a big part of the animal feed used on China's livestock. Soybean oil is used in everything from asphalt to anti-aging creams. Last year, North Carolina grew over 3 billion pounds of soybeans. Normally, most of that goes to China, but not this year. China hasn't imported soybeans from our state or any other state for months. WRAL's Heidi Kirk reports on what this means for the livelihood of North Carolina farmers.
Trump's trade war is impacting farmers nationwide, but especially here in North Carolina. And that's because 10 or 20 years ago, when tobacco sales slowed, many farmers switched to soybeans. And now that's one of the biggest cash crops here in the state.
The Overmans have been growing soybeans in Wayne County for generations.
These are a little small because we've not had any rain lately, but these are soybeans.
Lorinda Overman calls soybeans one of the more forgiving crops, but this year they've been anything but that.
We're already looking at almost a $4 deficit per bushel in the price that it's taken us to grow this crop versus the price that we can sell this crop.
Trump's tariffs have led to rising costs on things like seed, fertilizer, and even farm equipment. And now the news that one of the biggest buyers of U.S. soybeans, China, is boycotting the product has them even more concerned.
The concern is that China is going to find another market that is easier and better, and they won't come back.
President Trump has proposed an aid package for U.S. soybean farmers amid the boycott, and he claims a new soybean deal is on the table. But farmers like Overman fear that if it happens, it'll still be too late to sell this year's crop. At a press conference today, we asked Congressman Don Davis about his steps on a local level as an advocate for farmers.
Can you outline specifically the steps that you were taking to get them some sort of relief?
Absolutely. We're glad to share the letter that we've sent out advocating to make sure that we're able to get some funds out the door to help.
Now, any sort of federal assistance would be a huge game changer for these soybean farmers. They tell us they're waiting anxiously to hear about the fate of that aid package. Heidi Kirk, WRAL News in Wayne County.
There is some precedent for putting a relief program in place. That's what President Trump did in his first term when this soybean dispute with China actually started. In 2018, he imposed tariffs on lots of Chinese imports: solar panels, washing machines, cars, soybeans. China imposed soybean tariffs of their own, and they were actually higher than they are now. And by 2019, the American soybean industry lost $9.4 billion. But the Trump administration bailed them out. In 2018, they sent out $12 billion in direct payments to farmers, not just for soybeans, but for all crops affected by tariffs. North Carolina farmers got a good chunk of that money because soybeans are the number 5 cash crop in our state. The industry contributes nearly $3 billion to our economy, employing 5,000 people. So when sales from China stop coming in, the biggest soybean buyer by far, farmers like the one in Heidi's story need those bailouts, and they cannot come soon enough. Soybean harvest season begins later this week.
All right, Ashley, thank you. And all of our farmers could use a little bit of rain as well. Fortunately, we have some in the forecast.
We've got a little bit of rain in the forecast this week. There's still, you're going to need to keep watering. Farmers will. Even you at home, your grass, it's just not going to be a ton of rain. We'll keep an eye on the weekend forecast to see if maybe that could bring some better rain in our eastern counties. A live look outside tonight, Lake Gaston. You can see the clouds, just a glimmer of the sunset there in the distance. You'll wake up to clouds in the morning. Any small chance for rain, that chance starts to go up during the later morning hours. 9, 10, 11 a.m. We'll see some spotty showers around. Temperatures are mild, upper 60s to lower 70s to start the day. And rain chances are likely to peak late morning through the early afternoon, though there could still be some isolated showers and storms into the evening. This is not going to be a good soaking rain for us, though. The front passes through, it's scattered showers and storms, and then the front just gets stuck offshore for the end of the week. What will happen? We've got a brisk wind pushing in some cooler air Thursday. It's sunny. It's fall. It's gorgeous outside Thursday. Friday, the clouds roll in, but it's still dry. And then we see this area of low pressure develop on Friday especially, and it starts to travel along the front. That could bring some rain inland by the time we get to maybe late Saturday into Sunday. Still a lot of uncertainty as to how far west this rain is going to make it. Regardless, we are looking at coastal impacts for the weekend. That's kind of the key takeaway here. We're going to have to keep watching the forecast very closely in regards to our forecast in the triangle for the weekend. We got to wait for it to develop and the front to actually make it offshore. But the coastal impacts this weekend are more significant. You got to keep in mind last week we had 8 houses collapse at the Outer Banks, most in Buxton, and they are dealing with king tides this week. And then you've got a coastal low developing this weekend. It's not likely to be tropical. It's more of a nor'easter, but you get the coastal flooding, gusty winds, erosion, rough surf, and this is just not going to be good news for the coast where they really could use a break. Forecast rainfall, these numbers are definitely going to change here in our area. You can see the gradient going from 3 inches of rain to 1 inch of rain. It's pretty narrow here, and that's the reason why the forecast is complex for the weekend. Luckily, Tropical Storm Jerry poses no threat to the U.S. This one's going to stay out to sea, but it may strengthen into a hurricane as it passes east of Bermuda. The temperature drop will be significant for us. 79 tomorrow, upper 60s Thursday, 48 Friday morning to start the day. That'll be the coolest so far this fall, and the weekend high should stay pretty low as well.
All right, thank you, Kat. So I bet you didn't have this in your government shutdown advent calendar. Day 7 means free pizza, at least for some airport employees at RDU. It's your one last thing after the break. One last thing, this is day 7 of the government shutdown, and hundreds of thousands of federal workers are either furloughed or working without pay. Among the people going to work and not getting a check are TSA agents and air traffic controllers.
Today, to show some appreciation for those workers and to help them out, a local pizza joint brought some free pies to RDU. Johnny's Pizza brought in 160 pizzas, feeding over 280 employees. This is actually the second time they've done this. They were there on Sunday, too, and they have plans to keep doing this as the government shutdown continues.
It's about 80 pizzas per shift, 80 large pizzas. So feeding about 280 people. And that includes air traffic controllers as well. So they kind of come out with carts and then distribute it through the terminals of RDU and any of the people working behind the scenes in the tower and stuff like that, and make sure they all get fed today.
In the past, after a government shutdown, these federal workers would get back pay after Congress makes a deal, but there's a chance that that doesn't happen this time around.
This time, the White House threatened not to pay back federal workers. It's a tactic to pressure lawmakers to reopen the government, but it also means there may not be any guarantees. All the more reason, really, why businesses like Johnny's Pizza are stepping up.
I tell business owners this all the time. The joys of giving back far exceed any gains that could be made by running a business in this area. It's kind of like you've made it, you're taken care of. What does more growth enable me to do? And it enables me to give back to the community that has supported me and helped me grow.
We talked a lot about exactly what a government shutdown affects and does not affect. We did a segment last week. You can find it on the WRAL YouTube page. Johnny makes some good pies.
He sure does. We're big fans, Johnny. Hey, thanks for making WRAL your choice for local news.
Have a great night.